Amy,
Yes.
we just have to start with the big obvious question. You blew up a dam,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Like, and like, I'm just going to say that again. You blew up a dam. Like, what? Go back. Like, if yes, how, why, what is going on here? Tell us about it, the dam, about you, and why you blew it up.
It was all about freedom, if I'm being honest. It was my birthday.
Okay.
Yeah, it was 2024.
Okay.
And we were right in the middle of dam removal. And I wanted to go down to the dam sites on my birthday just to see the river, check in, like celebrate the progress on the river. And I knew that one of the dams was going to be, there were some explosions planned for one of the dams.
Yeah.
And so my colleague took me down there, and we get down there and we're talking to the whole crew, because there's a whole crew involved in these explosions, and it's very regulated. Everybody's very safe. And anyway, so we're talking to the guys. And then at one point, my colleague looks at me and he's like, "Do you want to blow up a dam?" And I was like, yes. Like, there was nothing more that I wanted.
Because for years, right? So to give the context, for years you had been working towards this very moment.
Yes. I mean, in many
And
ways,
where are
my
we?
whole
Paint the
life.
picture
So
where we
we're
are.
in Northern California
Okay.
actually we're in Southern Oregon on the Klamath River. I'm a member of the Yurok tribe down at the mouth of the river. My family is from the village of Requoy on the north side. And we are, Yurok is a fishing tribe. We're a fishing people. So my whole life I had, fished and camped and explored and been in ceremony on the river with my family and with other Indigenous families. And, even in my lifetime, I saw the salmon runs decline. And so there were many a nights when we'd be fishing for salmon, and we'd be at fish camp around the fire, and we'd kind of daydream about blowing up those dams.
Because those dams, there's multiple ones, right?
There were
Along the
four.
four.
Yeah.
They had been there for a long, like, how long have they been on that river?
Yeah, so between 1913 and 1962, there were 4 dams built in the mid-Klamath River. The lowest downriver dam was 190 miles upriver from my home village, right at the mouth of the river.
Okay.
Yeah, and they were built without fish passage, and so they blocked the salmon from going further upstream into their historical spawning grounds. Right. And then they also polluted water. They blocked cold water springs. So essentially, they made the river sick and prevented the salmon from spawning.
One of the most striking photographs from your talk that you just gave a few days ago was of those salmon dead in that river.
Yeah.
There's something about that image. I think I was thinking about it while you were speaking about how, as someone who doesn't have that deep connection to the land, but just as a human, there's something in that image that told me in my gut that something is wrong. Like, I think that you see that, and it's like a siren as a human that goes off in your head thinking, this is not supposed to be. Something is wrong here.
Yeah. And that was the reaction that really all of our allies and even our enemies at the beginning had. So you're speaking about an image I showed from the 2002 Klamath River fish kill.
Yes.
That year, over 70,000 adult salmon died on the Klamath River within the Yurok Reservation. It was the largest salmon kill in U.S. history. And it basically was caused by a parasite that spread through the fish and killed them. But the parasite was present because the habitat within the river was so compromised. So there was really low water levels to support agricultural diversions at the top of the river. The dams were basically releasing toxic blue-green algae that polluted the entire river. So the water quality was poor, the water levels were low, and the water temperatures were high, and that just breeds fish disease. So the fish all died. And witnessing that, certainly for Yurok people, it was like we were seeing the end of the world. And for many others in that area, federal or state or other tribal, other NGO scientists, leaders, advocates, grassroots people, cultural people, fishing people, it all triggered our responsibilities and duties to heal the river and help save the salmon.
You mentioned that for you, this is about freedom.
Yeah.
I find that really like moving. And I'm just wondering whether you might just say more about it.
It's freedom because the dams, metaphorically and physically, were like slowly taking away our way of life.
Yeah.
And I guess you kind of have to have a bigger context of time to say whether it was slow or fast, you know, but the Klamath River used to be the third largest salmon producing river in the whole continental U.S. And we as Yurok people, we've interacted, we've managed, we've stewarded, we've fished the river, the salmon since the beginning of time. And so we've grown up with these fish, and our way of life is dependent upon those fish. So if you have a dam that is killing the river, killing the fish runs, then it is also killing the people who are dependent upon it. You know, my family, the rest of the tribe, all of the indigenous peoples from the basin. And so we didn't have a future if we didn't take out those dams, because we couldn't practice our way of life.
Yeah.
And so the freedom part is you take out those dams, the river heals, the river is free, the salmon are free, and so are the people, because we're all in deep relationship and dependent upon one another. And one can't be free without the other.
One of my favorite moments was when you talked about your grandmother.
Oh, yeah.
I felt her through you as the way that you talked about her, and my grandmother's really important to me, and so I love that you brought her in, and you know, you've accomplished so much, not just in the removal of these dams, but also as, like you mentioned, like the first woman in your community who went to law school, like who represent, like I don't want to get Tell
First
us a bit
General
more.
Counsel. Yeah,
that was it. First General Counsel. Talk to us a bit about what that means and how that impacts what that has allowed, or what that's opened up for you and the community.
Yeah. Well, and let's start with the role of great grandmas and grandmas and moms and aunties. I always try to ask, and whether it's you know, great grandma who has passed away, but really connect to that ancestral power and ask them for the right words, so that then, like, when I go out and talk, it's not just me as, you know, you see me.
Yes.
I hope that I can channel that and be a venue for a larger message for those that can't speak, like the salmon or the river, but then, you know, deeply carry forward those cultural values that inform everything I've been talking about. Yeah. And it's rooted in my great grandmother. And you're right. Like, when we were in that room, and there was a part of the speech where it was like, she came to me during the fish kill and told me I had to fight. And in the speech, when I was saying that, my arms went like this, and it was like I literally felt her electricity. But then also I felt like the audience felt it too. Yes. And so it became this like exchange of electricity, and it was really powerful.
Very powerful.
And I'm so glad you felt that too.
Yeah. I think it's amazing for me when a speaker allows us into the world like that. What has being a lawyer allowed you to do? Like, having that skill set, having that access, what is it meant for you and your work?
It's another language. It's another, you know, arrow in your quiver. The law, and in the U.S., you know, we have the U.S. Constitution, we have tribal rights, and for my tribe, they are called federally reserved rights, which make them the supreme law of the land via the U.S. Constitution. And so in law school, I learned about you know, just basic U.S. law. And then practicing, I was able to really like hone my skill and figure out like, how do I use those federally reserved rights to better protect my community? And a big piece of that is translating.
Okay.
And it's translating the laws to, you know, my client as a lawyer was my tribe, the Yurok, so to tribal leaders, to tribal members. But it's also, and this is just as important, it's translating tribal law,
Okay.
tribal values and cultures to other lawyers, to other people who don't know the language of the river or don't know the cultural values, or maybe don't even understand like the tribal law, right? And so it's a translation back and forth, and it's allowed me to communicate. You know, one of the things, like after the fish kill, we informed the media and nobody came. Can you imagine? Largest salmon kill in U.S. history. We call the media and no one comes. And that was because at that point in 2002, I don't know, maybe people didn't care. You know, I don't know. It's very odd. But I think a big part of it was that we as Yurok people were very marginalized. Okay. Very marginalized. And I remember feeling that. And so the law has enabled me to be able to translate back and forth to empower the people I represent, the tribe I represent, the salmon, the river, and what we stand for. And then what's amazing, too, that I learned is my family history is deeply rooted in American law, too. My great uncle's Supreme Court case, and that's our highest court in the land, reaffirmed that the Yurok reservation was still Indian country, and so we still had inherent sovereignty and legal rights on it. And that really set the stage for the rise of the modern Yurok government, and that set the stage for dam removal. And I write about all of this in my book, The Water Remembers. But so I kind of knew that the law could be used as a change agent. And so that's what I've tried to do through that.
One of the parts of this story that I love is that you won.
Yeah. We won. We deeply won. Yeah.
I did not know that you could remove a dam and help bring a river back to life.
It turns out a lot of people feel that way, right? Or it's like they've never thought like, oh, we could take out these dams. We could remove this gold mine. We could remove this bridge. Yeah. We could take out this parking lot. We could remove this building, right? Like that idea, and the idea is nature-based solutions. Yeah. It's like you remove the concrete to make it real simple, and then you restore the land underneath it, and then that land will start performing traditional ecological functions, whatever they were. And we could do that across the globe. Yeah. You know, and that's really what I was trying to get across at the TED Talk was like, hey, this is a model that we could apply around the world to any kind of infrastructure project.
Yeah. One of my favorite parts of the story is where, and please correct me if I'm misremembering this, but where you get the courts to mandate is it the companies?
Power
companies to put in the fish corridors. Is that what they're called?
Fish ladders.
Fish ladders. Yeah. I remember thinking, can fish climb ladders? But yes, fish.
I know, it doesn't seem right.
Okay. Fish ladders into the dams. Mm-hmm. And then them did they know that it was like, because tell that part of the story. That was my favorite bit. One of my favorite bits.
Okay, good. So we're in this huge fight, and we've been in it for 12 years. Wow. And we're litigating, we're protesting, we're praying, all the things, community organizing. And we get to a point in the legal proceeding was in an American entity called the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, FERC. And so we get through the proceeding to a point where FERC basically ordered the power company to install fish ladders in order to keep operating the dams. And so we press pause on the legal proceedings and start talking about, okay, what can we do with this? And I think this was a really wise moment. You know, some people think like, oh, well, you just won. Like, why wouldn't you just go forward with the litigation? And that's because sometimes to get to these big ecosystem restoration projects, or really anything, like you need more diverse solutions than when a court remedy can offer. So we went into settlement negotiations and did an economic analysis, and it turned out that removing the dams was cheaper than installing the fish ladders. And that was essentially how we got to the settlement agreement.
It's incredible. It was such a cherry on. I don't know. I just loved it so much. And that kind of brings us back around to where we started about blowing up the dam. Yeah. What are you working on now? And also, what do you hope this talk might inspire once it's out in the world?
Yeah. So the work on the river now is there are still 2 dams that allow fish passage, and there are studies right now happening about what we should do with those. We're working on understanding what kind of flows the river needs post dam removal. So through the Ridges to Riffles Indigenous Conservation Group, that's my nonprofit with my partner Molly Myers. We are studying what the river needs post dam removal for water flows. And then one of the other things that it is what it is. We just filed a notice of intent to sue the Trump administration for violations of the Endangered Species Act because their water plan is violating the needs of the coho salmon that are set under the Endangered Species Act. So the fun never ends.
Yeah, I was going to say, so you're the whole battle. But I think that that's also a really important point that you were fighting this for
20 years. It took 20 years all in. Yeah.
You know, and people just see this last moment of it. Yeah. And so I'm really grateful for you to share that with us. And I think it makes me think about how, when I hear these stories, I think we maybe don't always, we're not aware of what's possible. Like, we limit ourselves.
I agree with that so much. And that takes me to what I hope people get is that we are only limited, or let me say this over again. We are only limited by our own imaginations. Gandhi said, anything seems impossible until it's done. And on the Klamath, it's done. Those dams are not coming back in, and people told us it was impossible. Right. And I think for folks, you just got to remember to keep leaning in and don't accept no for an answer, and be strategic, really strategic about planning your movement, planning, whatever it is, and use all your tools. For us, it was grassroots activism. It was law and policy. It was leadership. It was ceremony. It was all the things. And I think when you're really in it, and I know so many people are really in it, and especially now feeling defeated, you got to go out and find a little joy. And that's where I think, for us, we're still in the fight in many ways, but we are celebrating this victory. Yeah. Because one, it is the largest salmon restoration project in world history, largest U.S. dam removal project. But then two, if we don't pause to celebrate, then we don't get that little dopamine that gives you energy and reinforces your actions and keeps you going. Yeah. So I think everyone needs to get their little dopamine shot and keep going.
Well, I really recommend that once your talk comes out, everyone watches it, because it is exactly that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Walk loud. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us this week. We really hope you've enjoyed this episode.
If you did, please hit the follow button to make sure that you get next week's release. While you're at it, please leave a rating and a review.
Now, let's shout out to our fabulous team behind the pod.
Executive produced by Josie Colter.
Produced by Ben Beheshty.
Music also by Ben Beheshty.
Communications by Tara Cooper and Issey Gladston.
Curation by Deesha Chandra.
Hosted by Ben Hurst.
And Maryam Pasha.
And remember,
stay curious.